I think one of the things I have always maintained and I've always talked to people about is consistency and passion for whatever that you are doing. Wow. You don't have to be the extraordinary student to really excel in your area. And I have always maintained the constant determination of giving out my best to whatever I found myself doing. Science, we should all admit, is an expensive enterprise, for sure. We have to admit that. And, and so if any nation or a government is interested in investing into science, it has to appreciate the cost that it involves. For example, as an undergrad in my former university, there was no way we could conduct lab experiment in film hoods. And so everything we were doing was just on a bench base because the resources were not there. Yeah. And I think from the basic schools, people should be led to appreciate what science is and not being an abstract thing. To people who also are in positions that they can inspire people, they can motivate people, it's not just enough to get that highest level of education and not be impactful in your community. Your impact can come in so many ways, sharing ideas, sharing resources to people, mentoring people, like, coming up with programs that would throw more light on science or STEM related programs. That is also one of the ways. It's a collective process that we have to. And to those who are in leadership position, I also want to, appeal to them to also take a critical look of the challenges that we know we are facing and to come out with some short, medium, and long-term ways of addressing these challenges so that within the next 20, 30 years, if you are looking for a place for science or STEM-related discoveries, Africa will be counted as one.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk. I am so excited to host Dr. Isaac Antwi from Ghana. He obtained his PhD in chemistry at the University of Alberta in Canada, and he's currently working as a postdoctoral researcher at one of the best universities in the US, Yale University. Isaac describes himself as a self-motivated and career-focused research professional. Over the years, Isaac has served as a panelist in several seminars and workshops. He is passionate about mentoring students and helping the brilliant and needy. I am so excited today to talk with such an experienced professional on raising more young African scientists. I know we will learn a lot as he shares his insights and personal experiences. On this note, welcome, Isaac.
Thank you, Emelia.
Thank you. So our conversation today will be centered on raising more young African scientists. As a young scientist from Ghana and being one of the few people with such academic achievement, what has the journey been like for you? And from your experience, do you think it is possible to have a generation of many young African scientists?
Thanks, Emelia, and thank you for having me on this platform. And it's a great honor to be invited to speak to people like you and to share our experience. And it's a really great question. And my journey, has been an amazing one, and coming back from a continent and, a country which, has not developed much when it comes to science and technology. It's always been a challenge for young ones who has passion, specifically in the areas of STEM, to really, accomplish more and get the specific aims that, they want to. My journey, has always been one thing I always describe as, ups and downs, because at some point you weren't sure of what is ahead of you as to whether you are in the right direction or not. But, all being said, we took up the bold steps and did what was necessary. And, coming from University of Cape Coast, where I did my Bachelor of Science degree. And then after that, moving to Canada, into a new field or a new area was, a bit of a transition. And, I came across different experiences and, utilized the basic knowledge I had from my undergrad to really push it up to. It's possible for, Africans or, specifically Ghanaians or, any part of Africa to also young ones to produce great talent. I always say we have the workforce, we have what it takes. Whatever it's remaining is the necessary facilities to really, make people develop their potential. So I would answer by simple yes to your question that indeed it's possible, for young ones to really accomplish well coming from Africa in the area of STEM.
I honestly like the optimism you speak with. I believe there is a starting point and a place for everyone who is interested in science.
Yes.
Sometimes the interest may develop on the spot, like right on the spot. And for others, it may take a long process. When did it occur to you that you wanted to pursue a career in the field of chemistry? And why chemistry, if I may ask?
That's a great question. And, it's one of the questions I always get asked anytime, either being formal or informal conversation. I should say, chemistry growing up wasn't my ultimate career goal. I have always wanted to be a geotechnical engineer, which was my childhood dream. As to what influenced that, I personally don't know, but it's something, maybe I might have heard it somewhere or, but it stuck with me that I wanted to do geotechnical. But after senior high school, and knowing that it was a fee-paying program at University of Maths, and that wasn't possible due to financial restraints, it started diminishing. And I remember growing up always from the village where I came from, which solely relied on herbal medicine for treatments. It's always resonated to me and asked the question that everything around us has some specific, importance. And to me, I think once the career, which was more towards, geotech, wasn't, something that I thought was going to be, achievable, chemistry happens to be, the closest to me of one of my interests because of what I really wanted to know. I asked my mom, when somebody gets wounded, we go to the farm, we get some leaves, and then we apply it and it heals. And I was specifically interested in what exactly it's inside. And to me, reading about it taught that chemistry was the closest career for me to be able to dig well into knowing why some herbs works and why, treatments are possible. And so I was encouraged also by my senior high school teacher, who has always been my mentor, Mr. Shaibu, who one day took me out and said, you know what, I think you are a great chemist and you can be a great chemist. I didn't know why he said that, and possibly maybe because of I was doing well in chemistry, but at that point at SHS, it wasn't so clear to me. But I finished SHS and, financial restraints, I couldn't really apply, go to university for the following year. So I stayed home for 1 year. And during my 1 year of trying to work and gather money, the idea of seeing how plants, how other source of natural products are being used to treat basic diseases in Ghana actually became more of a reality to me. And I was more interested in finding out what it's actually, there, which I thought wasn't really appreciated. All what we knew was that it works. Nobody really know what is in there and what. So that is where my strong desire for science specifically, and then chemistry began. So when the following year, 2011, I was applying to universities, the only program that came in mind was chemistry. I know that my mom and other family members were all routing for, go do health-related program like medicine or nursing. I should say that I got nursing form, but I didn't feel, because I just didn't see myself in that profession. And then God being so good, I had admission to the University of Cape Coast to read chemistry. And, in first year, we are doing all the pure sciences, chemistry, physics, math. But in our third year, that is where we all, branched into our specifics, and it was solely chemistry. And at that point, it reinforced my desire that chemistry is something I really wanted to, because I had passion for it. I always go to class happy to know, see molecules and see that this compound or whatever that it is. Even though I might at that time didn't have, a greater understanding of what was it, but I was so curious to really learn more about it. And I think that is what really informed my decision to specifically read chemistry. Like I said, I had all the grades it takes to read either medicine, nursing, or any other health related. But growing up from where I came from and seeing how common disease were being cured by herbs and other sources, I became specifically interested in knowing what is actually in there. So if you want to ask me about my decision into chemistry, I think this is all what I can say for now.
Wow, that is a wonderful and a very interesting story. You already talked about some of the financial constraints during the time of application. I can tell for a fact that setting a mark in every career entails a lot of sacrifices, and it also comes with a lot of commitments. But most of the time, we don't share these stories. And I believe that for us to impact people or, let people know what it all entails, we should tell the full story. What are the commitments you have made into your journey to be where you are now?
That's a great question, and a heavy question at the same time. But I will try my possible best to present my views of some of the commitment. I think one of the things I have always maintained and I've always talked to people about is consistency and passion for whatever that you are doing. Wow. You don't have to be the extraordinary student to really excel in your area. And I have always maintained the constant determination of giving out my best to whatever I found myself doing. And my entire career life, I believe, had been in academics. So that is the only thing I have really committed myself to. And the passion comes in because that is what drives me, even when things are not moving well. Sometimes we share the story and people think that there has not been challenges, and there are a lot and millions of them. But because of the passion I have for, it always motivates me to be, curious to find out what is inside and even to ask the more deeper question. And so the sacrifices to me was to be committed to everything I was doing and to be passionate. And one of the things that I remember growing up and then, in my career, even in the university, that my people will always tell that Isaac, it's always committed to science, and it's hard for him to not appreciate enough it. And to me, I made it as my life. I made it as who I am. And I think that is what, anytime I look back, I believe had contributed to the success of my journey, is that I have remained committed, and I still remain committed to science. I still remain passionate about science, and I am eager to learn.
Yes.
See, our ability to be, avail ourselves to know, it's also a learning process. So I don't mind coming to anybody or going to ask questions about something that I have no idea or it's not clear to me. And once you ask through those processes, you get to learn. So these are some of the commitments, I have actually attributed to the success of my academic career in the midst of all the heavy challenges.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. They are all very wonderful points, being passionate and committed to your area of studies and the things that you do. I really like all the points you shared. So are there certain things you think it would be good that we look at in terms of helping raise more young Africans? And we can start to think of this from the individual level, like you and I, or even on a more national and global level. What are some of the things that we need to take into consideration to help improve the structure of our educational systems in a way that would favor more young Africans?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, thing to ask. And, I think on an individual level, one of the things you are doing on your page, I think it's also, a contributing factor, and it's, people becoming aware of what, science, technology, STEM related programs are. And, a lot of education has to really goes into, especially those of us who have had the opportunity to climb the ladder to this life, to this point, to use every avenue that we have to tell people of why, science or STEM career is doable, and to, take out the mindset that you have to be a genius before you can read any STEM related program. I think that has always been, and even back home growing up, it was perceived that all science students were bright, right? And so, and that is where I think it starts in and fits into even gender, more men into STEM, or because it's, painted in such a way that you have to be bright, super excellent, or whatever for you to go into STEM related. So we as individuals and as people who are, in our graduate programs or in our academic career or our industrial career that have seen and grown up, I think taking up upon ourselves to also talk to people about, what science is, share our stories to what motivated and what led us, and some of the things we could improve upon. Now, going down to, in terms of a more national way of tackling this, I think science, we should all admit, is an expensive enterprise, for sure. We have to admit that. And, and so if any nation or a government is interested in investing into science, it has to appreciate the cost that it involves. For example, as an undergrad in my former university, there was no way we could conduct lab experiment in film hoods. And so everything we were doing was just on a bench base because the resources were not there. And I think from the basic schools, people should be led to appreciate what science is and not being an abstract thing. When it's more practical, one of the commonest example I always tell people is, we always talk about distillation. With distillation, everybody who goes through SS or JHS even knows about distillation. How do people appreciate this? And so if you tell somebody that, oh, this thing that you are learning, this is one of the places that it is even applicable, and it is applied in various places, the oil sector, so that people do not just, come to the point that, oh, distillation, this is what it is, and there was nothing for me to appreciate what I am learning. And so our ability to incorporate practicalities of what we teach the people and make people appreciate. Over here, which I think Ghana, we are not there, and Africa is not there. We even have high school students who on summer breaks come to research lab, conduct some basic experiments that they've learned, and that's really fits into their view of what science is. You can imagine somebody growing up from kindergarten, the only time the person might see a test tube, it's probably doing one science lab practical. And not even every secondary school have lab practical. Some has to drive to different centers before they can get. And all these barriers should be addressed. And once it becomes very easy and very easy for people to appreciate what they are learning, it also helps them to really know the importance of it. And I think it's a national dialogue which should be continuing. A lot of educations and a lot of dialogue should go into that to draw government's attention, to draw institutions' attention, and to draw all those, you know, who play critical role in our educational system to come up with a better way for us to really make science not just a theory, but also a practical, because the world now is riding on the shoulders of STEM related programs. And that is where we also have to concentrate.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think some of these topics are very challenging to talk about because it brings up a lot of other issues, because the youth is the future of the nation and for every country, for every continent. And I believe that like investing more in the youth and in the educational system to see that the youth stand at a better place, it's so important. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And that will bring us to the closure of our first conversation. But before we round up this session, I would like you to share any final words that you would like to share with our viewers or people who are listening to you and seeing how passionate you are in talking about your studies and even how to inspire other young African scientists or people who dream to pursue a career in chemistry. Any final words you would like to share with them?
Well, I would like to tell everybody listening to me, depending on which aspect or area of your career that you are, but specifically to people who are in the process of, getting higher education, that, it's doable. Science is not an abstract thing. Once you are determined that you can do it, you put in the hard work, you can do it. And, also move with the mindset that, failure, it's not just the end of everything, with the fact that you have failed at one thing at some point of your life, that's not necessary. We all failed in, sometimes our reactions don't fail, certain, everything, things fail. And to people who also are in positions that they can inspire people, they can motivate people, it's not just enough to get, that highest level of education and not be impactful in your community. Your impact can come in so many ways, sharing ideas, sharing resources to people, mentoring people, like, coming up with programs that would throw more light on science or STEM related programs. That is also one of the ways. It's a collective process that we have to. And to those who are in leadership position, I also want to appeal to them to also take a critical look of the challenges that we know we are facing and to come out with some short, medium and long-term ways of addressing these challenges, so that within the next 20, 30 years, if you are looking for a place for science or STEM related discoveries, Africa will be counted as one.
Wow, thank you so much. It has been an honor having you on Let's Talk, and thank you for being vulnerable enough to share your story and inspire other young students, including like international students and even local students. So yeah, thank you. To all of our viewers, definitely check out Isaac's page and his websites to find out more about his research. In our next conversation, Isaac will be talking about synthetic organic chemistry, which he would help us break it down. So stay tuned. And yeah, it was great having you all on today's conversation. Thank you. Let's enjoy science together.